Hello, it's Film Frenzy. Incredibles 2, the long-awaited sequel to the original Pixar superhero film, finally debuted in theaters, so I'm here to review it. The 2018 family superhero film, we're going to get right into it with the first category, direction and visuals. So I just returned from the theaters, and it was kind of difficult to process my thoughts in the film, but I think it's great to start with kind of an easier category, direction and visuals. This movie just succeeds at perfectly. Like, I would give it probably a perfect 5 out of 5 for this category because aesthetically it was very different from the original. Like, there's some very interesting action sequences, like with the villain, like with all the hypnosis and stuff. There's this one crazy scene where Elastigirl is fighting in like this like whole like hypnosis room, and there's all these lights. That was just visually just like stunning. It was just crazy to see, like, because the theater was all bright and stuff. It was very interesting. I like that. That scene really stood out to me from like a visual standpoint. And then some other great action sequences are the train sequence, the helicopters. I love, like, there's a lot more superheroes, as you saw from like the trailers, like, that are introduced in this film. And I felt like it's just cool to see all these different abilities. Plus Jack Jack is just hilarious. Like, there's a lot of great visual humor in the film. There's also some that doesn't completely succeed, but overall this category is just great. And Incredibles 2 succeeds in spades with direction and visuals. Up next, I'll be discussing acting and character development for Incredibles 2. For acting and character development, Incredibles 2 mostly succeeds, I'd say. There's very fun characters, they're very vibrant in the film, just like in the original, but the characters, they don't develop a ton. So, like, obviously a big part of the film is, like, the character interactions between Elastigirl and Mr. Incredible, and it's great, like, about, like, learning, like, their place in the family and stuff. But at the end of the day, it seems like kind of Mr. Incredible changes and realizes that he doesn't need all the spotlight, but not completely. Like, I feel like they didn't really have a resolution to that like whole like character like interaction going on. I would have liked that and then also like lots of the characters, like, they're fun characters, like what's his name, Lucius, like, the friend, or Jack Jack, or like Dash, but like they don't really have like much like deepness at all. Like, Dash is just kind of like, like that annoying like little kid that like just pretty much ruins like other people's like day and stuff. Like, he doesn't really have depth at all to him, which is like I'd like to see when he's one of the main core members. I thought they did do an amazing job with Violet, which I'd like to highlight, because like with her and like lots of it revolves around her and like this guy she likes, Tony, and I thought it was just pretty like, I think they did a really good job with that. Like, it felt very authentic, and the voice acting all around was just top notch, just like the first film. So overall, I'm giving Incredibles 2 a 4 out of 5 in this category. There are some like faults, just like how like some of the characters aren't very fleshed out, and not a ton of the characters grow throughout the film. But overall, it still does a solid job. My final and most important category are the story elements, plot, pacing, script, and theme. So this is the big category that really just helps decide like how good I think the film is. So I'm gonna start talking about plot. So I have some gripes with the plot of this film. I'm not gonna go into detail because I want to keep this spoiler free. So I'm just gonna have some generalities. But basically, I felt that this film has a lot of the same story beats as the original. I previously mentioned how aesthetically it's like unique more so, but like plot wise, I felt like it was just kind of retreading the same ground. And honestly, like, often I feel like these animated sequels, they really just don't work that often. Like, I think this is better still than like Monsters University or Cars 2 or Cars 3 or Finding Dory. But like Pixar, like, they should not be making much sequels besides maybe Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3. Like, this movie, like, it just doesn't have a unique enough plot to justify it being there. And yes, it's solid, fast pacing, and it was very enjoyable to watch. But it just doesn't really have a strong enough plot. It's just kind of like simplistic and like pretty predictable. Like, I'm not gonna say who it is, but there's a surprise villain, which really isn't a surprise because like that's what Pixar always does. Like, Inside Out's like the only one that doesn't do it, and it really benefits from that because it's a little bit of a gimmick, and like when there's a weaker story like present here, they need that gimmick, and that's a problem. I don't like when movies have gimmicks because that's just a sign of a weaker plot where they weren't being as creative. And Pixar is an extremely creative studio, so it just pains me to see them just kind of doing the same old. And like I think that's just like another story beat that they just keep on doing that they need to stop. And then the other major thing with the plot was that there's like as you watch you'll see there's like two main plots going on, like side plot like with like Elastigirl and like the villains and stuff, and then like Mr. Incredible is watching the kids at home. So some movies masterfully blend like two plots or a plot and a subplot together to like create a synthesis of themes. And I felt like that was lacking in this film. I felt like they were kind of just divided and they never really were cohesive enough. Those two main plots. I think that's a big problem because it's difficult. I admit it's very difficult to write like two big plots going on simultaneously. I felt this one was just very like uneven, switching back and forth. It felt a little bit jagged. I wasn't a fan of that. So I would really like to see them like connect the two plots with a core theme, which is another problem. I felt like the core theme was missing. Like there was some nice moments here and there where there's some good dialogue and good conversations, but there wasn't a core theme, which I think is a big problem, especially in a Pixar movie where that's one of their strongest like attributes. And then the script, I thought there were some good lines. Like I said, there were some great conversations, but it just felt like very just like the same old dialogue. And lots of the best jokes were used up in the trailer, so they weren't even that good anymore. And I felt like they relied on too much of the same type of humor and just the simple gags and stuff. And there was some very clever humor here and there, but there wasn't a ton. And there were some very cliche lines that could be a little like almost cringy in a way. Like I just I don't know, kind of like lines that you could kind of almost make fun of. There wasn't a ton, but there's definitely moments where I was just like, I wish they didn't write that. That just sounds so dumb. Like, please, just I wish like the script didn't seem as fine tuned as the first one. Plus, it wasn't as original. Like that was one of the biggest parts of like how good this movie was in the like original Incredibles was just how like the world building and everything. I love that. So if they're not going to make an original and great sequel, then why do a sequel? So I really wish they just did that, like, did a Deadpool 2 style sequel where they really change things up and expand upon the first and improve upon the first. That would be awesome. But sadly, it disappointed. For this category, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. This is definitely its weakest category, and sadly, that's the most important category. So my overall ranking is a 3.5 out of 5. I still like the movie very much, very enjoyable, but I just think it doesn't live up at all. And it's not just comparing it to the original. As a movie on itself, it's not that great. I think there's other movies that you should see in theaters instead, like Avengers Infinity War, spectacular film, Solo, Star Wars Story, very underrated, and Deadpool 2, amazing sequel. So those three, check out the reviews on my channel. I love them all. This movie, don't get me wrong, it's not bad by any means, but I really wish that they were just a little bit like more creative about the film. And so yeah, last thing I want to say is shout out to Michael Giacchino. I think I pronounced your name right. He also scored like Rogue One and some other movies. I thought the score was fantastic in this film. Just really like to stand out. So yeah, that concludes my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Comment down your opinions on the latest Incredibles movie down below. See you guys later from Film Frenzy. Bye.